Are you wondering what your favorite wacky nerds are up to? Search for Campaigns of the Plains on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and make sure to follow and like us to keep up with all our content and news. You might also find exclusive content for fans only. Remember to catch us on YouTube every Friday at noon for a new episode of Campaigns of the Plains.
And welcome to this week's episode of Campaigns of the Plains. We are doing our Campaign 1 wrap-up for D&D. So who wants to start with questions to talk about anything?
I think you should.
I mean, my questions were more, literally all the questions I had people hit in the questionnaire.
Let's just start with a collective just sigh, like... Jeez, it was a lot. It was a lot to unravel.
I think we can also start with, we've been recording this campaign since last fall, but it is at the beginning of the campaign, which a lot of you know we've talked about this. We've been playing with these characters, more or less, for 2.5 years.
3
years. So to end this is just so strange. It's like a little piece of 3 years of our life has ended. It feels very weird, but it was amazing too.
Divorce.
It's what?
It's like a divorce. Like a
year
was happening.
You're
a little sad about it, but excited about the future.
Yeah, can we still be friends with benefits?
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to just start with Christian's questions, since they're right in front of me. Everyone's favorite moment. Favorite moment, anyone got anyone they want to throw out? Otherwise, we can go around the table.
Oh, no. I have to think about this.
Okay, so this is like old campaign.
Okay.
Old campaign.
That's okay.
My favorite moment, the most memorable moment is when Oz died.
Okay.
That was that was my first character. That was I don't want my character to die. I don't want anyone to die. I don't want to be the first. I was the first. But things happened. But I think the first really epic moment for me was when I knew it might happen, but the rest of the party got to meet Oz again. Like, you guys didn't know that he was alive.
Oh, yeah.
And there was some behind. I really liked that weird surprise. And that was something cool.
There was a very, very touching moment that happened.
Yeah, I forgot my other favorite moment.
And Josh actually has a Reddit thread of that moment that he posted about. Maybe we'll share it to our socials.
That's a good idea.
I might have cried about that a few times.
It was a really good, heart-touching moment. Yeah. And of course, as you all know, because we've talked about Oz and Aster, Josh's character, they end up together at the end of their
who we refer to as the Holy Husbands.
Yeah. We do refer to them as the Holy Husbands. Yes, they're both paladins.
Yeah. And so that was that moment was just touching, because we were forming our friendship. But it was also a really it was a teaching moment for me as someone who is still new, or at least back then it was much newer to role playing and the concept of you can do anything. That's still I'm still very analytical. In my real life, I'm not an organized person. I always tell people I'm a lazy type A. I strive for that perfection, but it's hard to maintain. But I'm so used to playing video games, and there's a logic to video games where there is no logic to D&D. And so that was a teachable moment to me where I was oh, you can just imagine. You can imagine. And that was amazing.
Yeah.
So that was those everything surrounding that moment is my favorite thing about this.
I think one of my favorite moments of what we have published is probably the defending Terran sequence. And I wasn't even a part of that, but that Rowan and Chats and Finnick were just driving through the streets, just fighting zombies, and even that whole Kudev fight, it was all this really epic, fight, and I don't know, it felt very big.
It was intense.
And that was one of the first big intense fights that we had in the Snoring Mountain section of what we were doing, and it was really fun. And also terrifying. I was nervous the whole time. I was shaking in fear that we were going to die.
Terrifying.
Terrifying, yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
think my favorite moment, at least on recording, would be. It might be when you shot Dominic and he forgot he was angry. He died.
That was good. That was good.
There's so many great moments we've had over, the past year and then the past 3 years before, but like just ending, like, you always hear stories about these great endings where it's like, they stab him through the heart or do this trick shot and all that. Nope, just shot him and he forgot. Just
forgot that he was mad.
And, it's, I think it kind of plays on what Eric was saying. It's just like, it can be this like abstract strategy that wins the day. And so I think that that's what made that moment so golden.
Mm-hmm. I still chuckle about that sometimes.
I think that's kind of the beauty of what D&D is, though. In video games, unless something like that is made specifically to happen, you don't see it. But like in D&D, something like that can just be thought up on the fly, and the absurdity of it just happening. Like as far as we're concerned, like this was like Lieutenant to BBEG, and I don't know. I think that was a good one. It was fun. That whole fight was actually kind of fun.
That was a great fight.
It was a great fight.
That was what I needed in my life. You know what I mean? Like, you just need those moments where I was like, I think we're going to maybe have some balance today. Or like, we don't know. And then all of a sudden I was like, you should like shoot this guy. And then all of a sudden you're like, I shoot him. And I was like, what? I was just really like that made Eric really like the new character. Like, I fell in love with that character. I was like, oh, yep, that's not, because that's not what I would do. But I liked that that's what happened. Yeah. Like, I would like that, like,
I really think that your character came in and changed the dynamic of our party at the end there, because we have always played things very cautiously. Our whole group has been like, oh, but this could result in us dying if we try to push this. And your character came in and you were like, fuck it. I'm going to kill this guy. Let's see what happens.
We played 2 years of Barovia, so that was constant. We were like, oh, we can smell this plant, it'll kill us. Yeah. We were like Scooby-Doo gang around, constantly like, this cat might kill us, well, we'll take it with us.
Yeah.
Well, what was your favorite?
Was that your favorite moment too?
That was an amazing moment.
I as far as on-screen moments, I feel like it would be weird not to say Lucian shot first.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that also feels selfish to say that.
It can be whatever you did.
I picked the moment I created. But, I mean, it was good. I feel like, in general, the whole fight, everything about that fight was so good.
Mm-hmm. Off screen, obviously, I'm in agreement with Eric.
As everyone should be.
Yep. With the thing that happened in Barovia, because I was playing a healer at the time, and I was like, man, how can I really make this moment memorable? Because just kind of a breakdown. Oz had given Legionis enough money to raise somebody had the need arise. Sorry. But then ended up getting completely dusted, so there was no way he could bring him back whatsoever. So he was really wrestling with that as a character, and then that was kind of the metamorphosis into Aster, because he was like, I don't want to be responsible. I don't want to have that weight on my shoulders again, to lose somebody and not be able to do anything. So that was the metamorphosis into the whole Aster situation. But at the same time, he bought this rug that Oz had been saving up for, and instead he gave the 500 gold to Legionis that he was going to buy that rug with. And so Legionis / Aster spent a lot of time on making that rug into a hat cape for himself to remind him of Oz. So when Oz was alive again, he didn't think twice about giving it to him as, sorry, I couldn't save you. that first time. So that was probably my favorite off-camera moment for sure, and one of my favorite moments in D&D ever. But on camera, I'd probably have to say that and this may be selfish, but just that whole change I felt in Rowan when he was taking charge and defending his hometown from all of the zombies. Like, he's not a smart guy, but he's going to do what he can to defend the town. And the fight with Kudath was just the start, and getting rid of the zombies was tough, but he did everything that he could. He was the only one that didn't have lycanthropy at the end of the goddamn thing.
Yeah, do we all just live the rest of our lives as werewolves?
Well, okay, so are you asking that about?
Oh,
are you asking about this? Is this one of your? I mean, it doesn't have to be like one of your questions.
It's just something that I thought about like randomly at like midnight last night.
Sure.
Like as I was going to bed, I was like, "We're all still werewolves."
Still like 50%.
I was like, Rowan had gotten a hold of Agnes and had her prepare for her if you guys did want to.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. But we couldn't cure it with remove curse, so that's why I was wondering if she would be able to.
Yeah. So the idea was supposed to be that like Kudath and Dominic were like higher level type of werewolves. So it couldn't just be remove curse. It was I felt like that would be too easy. So it was going to be like a sub mission. You guys had to go investigate, like, how can I figure out how to cure this type of thing? Like maybe talk to a healer from like Singorn or something. But obviously, so over time, you guys would eventually become cured if you chose to.
Okay.
I feel like
I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and like eat Finnick. So
right.
One in.
But
not that way.
Yeah.
I want him to still be alive afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is to Eric. What drove you to redirect Finnick after the specific night of the zombie attack / werewolf uprising crazy double moon night?
It really came out of boredom for one.
Sure.
Like I constantly need things to change.
Sure.
And so you and I were talking about like what could I change? And you're like, you can change your class. I was like, you can change it. I'm still learning. And so I was like, okay. So I kept thinking like, what would he change into? Why would he be changing? What kind of does our party need? Or like, and what in his background would justify this change? And after I kind of thought about that, really it was the interaction with the elder people in the party. Like, I feel like you killed Chats in that battle, right? Did you Chats killed you?
I knocked Chats. Well, yes.
Weird stuff.
I did go down a couple times.
There was there was just always tension between Chats and Finnick at the beginning. Mm-hmm. We just never got along. And then after the battle, and he dropped Duke, that was just so intense. And I was just like, how would that affect a person if you basically woke up the next morning and realized you had annihilated probably one of the strongest people in your party and had no control over it really. Mm-hmm. So that was my thought process. I would like to change because I need some change in my life. And this is why he would change. And he kind of really sought God to absolve him of his sins. And it was one of the things I tried to do was trying to make peace with the people that he had not gotten along with right away. So that's why he gave Chats the Blade of Lost Love and gave something to Duke and try to become a healer and heal people instead of just frenzying out and hurting people. He wanted to learn how to protect, and that's what his parents had been doing, and feel like he had kind of strayed from that in his mission. So it was really more of a coming to home and a recentering. So that was my thought was whoa, that was really intense, and that's not what I want that character to be. Mm-hmm. And how would that? I feel like he had PTSD. He woke up and he was just what happened?
Almost I thought that this thing that I could do was a blessing.
Yeah.
And then I harmed people with it. And that's not what I want.
Yeah. He had always thought it was a power thing, and he had control over it. And that was probably the first time he had lost control. Mm. And that loss of control changed him.
Right.
So, but yeah, I came out of like, oh, I need something different. And then like as a new player, or like newest player of all of us, I was like, oh, you can change that. Well, why? And that was my like the way my mind worked is like, oh, this big event, because it was a big thing for the party.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the catalyst, I think.
Okay, good. Travis, this one's for you. Are you happy with the conclusion to Chatch's story?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think I am. I mean, there was a lot going on towards the end when we finally got to the mountain, and I mean that's all our viewers know of, but like just everything we had to go through, and like Chat's a story, which some of the backstory was kind of alluded to in video, but kind of behind the scenes, there was an attack on the mountain long ago by the were creatures. They took it over, but a pack of them stole his daughter and killed his wife. And so this whole time he was hunting down Suze, or Ockrell, as it were, and he went to a whole nother realm, Barovia, looking for her, and lost his mind, found it again, and all to find out that, his home was still overrun with these creatures, but then, coming to, terms with the fact that maybe not all of them were bad, and that, the best path forward might be working with the people he's hated for so long. And then to find out that his daughter was, part of the problem all along, it's not how I imagine Chat's story ending. And I think everyone wants to picture their character having this storybook ending where, lived happily ever after. I don't think Chat's does. I mean, yeah, he's found some good friends that definitely probably walk him back from the edge, but Chat's, has no family and probably no drive to start another one after the trauma he's been through. Originally I thought about, before Josh stepped in and had Rowan, insist that Snoring Mountain become part of, the local community and stay there, I had intended to kind of walk Chats off into the sunset, kind of just have him wander the world and just kind of find a new life for himself, because, his home just wasn't his own anymore. But to say that's not to say I'm unhappy where it ended. This was kind of the natural conclusion of this story. It was bittersweet, but it was solid.
I really don't think that Chat's friends are going to let him stay alone for very long at any point in the rest of his life. You probably will always have Bree songs in your home.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's why Rowan already said that, don't move the mountain, don't run away.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, Rowan's mind has changed about the mountain since then, too, so.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to have to ask this one.
Go ahead.
How was your first run?
Oh, that. I think it was good. I definitely had a lot of grandiose ideas about, making it last significantly longer. I kept thinking of, what if they did this? What if we add this? There's so many other side quests. I know Eric hates side quests, but some side quests specifically were going to lead into more lore about stuff that Ockrell was doing, behind the scenes, or stuff that was going on in your periphery that you didn't immediately have a way of interacting with. And so I wanted to introduce some of those. I wanted there to be a dungeon inside of the mountain itself that you had to dig through and find the stone that you ended up finding that can move the mountain. I wanted there to be a dragon guarding it or something cool. But of course, we didn't have time for that. Like, I feel like not having enough time kind of really rushed kind of the ending. And there were definitely points where I was like, I'm not really sure how to keep going. Like, I don't know exactly the direction. And sometimes it was just fun to throw different monsters at you guys, and kind of figure out how that worked lore-wise, like with Atropos and the weird things that were down in that cave. And how that tied into Aquarel's backstory and whatnot. So a lot of it was just, I kind of just did stuff and I figured it out later how it tied together. But I mean, it was fun. It was a lot. I now appreciate like people who do this professionally, like Mercer. I could not do this like for a job. But I mean,
it's almost like you're writing a book, but without any of the plot points.
Oh yeah,
because your players fill it in for you.
Well, I mean,
but you have to direct. You have to direct the whole book,
right?
Yeah,
it's a lot.
You got to convince the players to connect the dots.
Yeah. But sometimes they want to go left.
Right. Yeah.
They create other dots.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Right.
With that, did you starting off in a module, and then going into like a homebrew situation? Mm-hmm. Did you have a preference? Did you?
Oh, module was significantly easier just because it was all like planned out in theory. I liked that I started with module because if I would have started like 100% homebrew, it would have been way too much. It would have been very overwhelming in my opinion.
Homebrew is really hard to do if you've never ever done it before because you have to. The homebrew or the module does it for you, right? It has all of the information and side quests and what if the players go left. It has that there for you sometimes.
Sometimes, not always.
Not all the time. Sometimes your players go left too many times.
Right, right.
But when you do it yourself, you have to do it.
Right, which was kind of practice for when we did get out of Barovia. I don't know if I have a preference necessarily. I feel like the homebrew was more. I could actually use your backstories a lot more. The module was very restrictive because like you couldn't visit Story Mountain because we're in a demi-plane.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And like even like some of the little things that we sprinkled in, like the this is talking about Barovia, but like the boots that Oz had, like that didn't really make sense. They never actually got that. You got them in the end. Like stuff like that, like it didn't actually make sense for them to be in Barovia, but I was like, I just want to put them in here because I can. Yeah. But some of the stuff, like it didn't make sense for them to be there, and I was like, I want it to make sense, but this is also a module. Like, there's boundaries to it.
It is really hard with a module, especially maybe not every module, but especially one that is in its own area to incorporate backstories. Unless the people's backstories are made for that area,
right? Yep. Yeah. Like it was easy for chats to like start off like you find him in the woods and he's insane or whatever. Like that makes sense, but a lot of people's backstories were like, oh, it's completely outside of this place. I've done stuff. Yeah. And it doesn't really pertain to the campaign we're in right now. Yeah, so right. I feel like if we were started like 100% homebrew, we probably could have gotten to more of your backstories, unfortunately. Like we could have visited your uncle in the airplane.
Sure.
Elemental plane. Air elemental plane.
Airplane.
That place.
He's just a pilot.
We live on a giant airplane that's just been converted into
jumbo jet.
Jumbotron, jumbo jet.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if I have a preference. Yeah. There's pros and cons, but I like that we started with the book and then we went to homebrew because it was easy to transition. I think, but yeah.
Didn't mean to skip that other question, but
no, you're fine. So this is for everybody. What is one thing that you wish you had done differently? Like anything the entire time that you wish you had done differently. Does anyone have anything off the top of their head? Otherwise, I can go.
Oh, please do.
Yes, well, I think.
One thing I think I would do differently would be to try and plan out like an actual entire arc and try and like sprinkle things in more. Cause like the whole Seuss becoming Aquarel thing was kind of like this is interesting. I feel like this would tie in well. it wasn't like this is the obvious endpoint. Like when I started with the ooze in the tree stuff, where Ember left, like that was just like this is an impending doom type of thing. And I was like, oh, this is something that can...
I think you tied it in pretty well.
Like,
I thought it was tied in really well.
Yeah.
I just left things vague and, keep things...
It works, though.
Yeah. It does. Like, it makes for good storytelling because you're not necessarily telling you, this is exactly how this thing comes to be, or, how it works, blah, blah, blah. So... I wish I would have planned it better because I could have sprinkled things in and been like, you notice this, or you see a book about this, or blah, blah, blah. You talk to this person and they happen to know about this, like the Atropos thing, I probably should have brought that in earlier so you guys would be able to talk to people and ask what that thing is. I feel like I kind of just dropped it towards the end, like, this is stuff that Opera was doing. But yeah, I think it's a big part of being a DM is you either plan it all out and you spend a lot of time planning and doing all the little bits, or you just kind of do it as you go. And I did it as I went.
See, the real life balance is finding a balance between the two, and
right.
You have these points that you want to hit, but at the same time, you're not hanging on to those so hard that if the players do cat off to the left, then you're just not like, well, fuck.
Like, how do I redirect? Right?
Yeah.
And I think that just comes with practice. I think if I would have thought about, she is this entity that's going to be a big bad, like, okay, I can figure that out and make it a little bit more obvious. But what do you guys got? One thing you wish you did differently.
This is my question, so I want to know what y'all are saying.
You
first.
get to answer it too. I don't know. I really don't know.
Do you think any person you wish you would have talked to, or wish you would have, went left instead of went right, or wish you didn't kill someone, or wish you...
I wish that we would have went into that tower before it got... it was nice that we went into it when it got raided. We don't have to pay for anything. But there were a lot of cool magical items in there.
The People's Tower?
Yeah.
Yep.
I wish we would have went into there when it was open and actually gone shopping in there, because we probably could have gotten some useful items in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish we were rich and had one of the things.
We had my character, I had like 600 gold on me when we ended the campaign.
I don't think that Rowan has any regrets. I mean, there's nothing that I feel terrible about him, doing as a decision. So, yeah, that was just the path that he was on, and I feel like he handled it pretty well, so...
He had a task. His task.
Yeah.
And his task definitely changed, and his thoughts changed, but that's just character growth.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Huh. Well, I guess chat, I don't know if I would have had chats do anything differently. I mean, maybe fuck up here or there, but
sure.
All the first items. That was good. It was good flavor.
Yeah, I guess maybe he wouldn't have stood up and announced he needed to shit. But then again, I wouldn't change that moment for anything. So
that was another good one.
So. Yeah, I mean,
I've just thought of another favorite moment. Damn it!
There's too many to mention, but I mean, maybe I maybe would have considered the first time he met Suze as Ockrell in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
He really stood his ground and he did not negotiate with her at all, and I think maybe going back, if I had, taken a little more time and really thought of what I wanted to ask her and, maybe dug more into, what her purpose was, why this was so important and all that. And, I think she was really standoffish, which, granted, she was trying to take over an entire countryside, let alone a mountain,
right.
But so I don't know how much I would have gotten out of there, but I think chats would maybe regret a little bit, not trying to be the father figure he wanted to be. Like, this whole time he was looking for her, and then I think, it was, he feels maybe it was a big failing on his part that she turned out this way, but yeah, so I guess maybe, trying to reach out to her and, establish communication somehow and, talk her down. I think that would be the only regret he'd have.
Well, mine is not necessarily, it's more of a character design, with Duke. So, in the conclusion, I did kind of explain, the decisions that he had made, but I do wish that I had found a way to make him more open. But I had already, from the very beginning, made him as this person that was closed off and had reason to be. I guess, personally, I wish I had found, understood or realized a way to better explain to the group how they're not going to get these answers being direct with him. And stuff like that. Well, I always enjoy characters that have that kind of, that sort of something that they're holding back, and there's a way to get at it. But it's always hard to
balance how much.
Yeah. Well, it's because I don't want to just spill the beans, right? Because I always want there to be something more to learn. That's basically what I'm getting at, is I want there to be something more that you can get. But maybe if I had made it so he was a little more willing to talk or explain why.
I think if you maybe would have just breadcrumbed it just a little bit, that might have been the better way to go about it.
Yeah, and it's just, so it ended up kind of devolving into this whole, I guess I've already committed to it. I don't feel right changing it.
He kind of tried to, though. I was Celeste. He did. He did.
Yeah.
Celeste knew more, I think, than anyone else. But
then Celeste died.
Celeste was a snitch. So even when she figured out what his name was, she didn't tell anyone else. She was just like, "Okay, I understand you a little bit more, and I'm not gonna tell. I'm not gonna. If you don't want this out, I'm not gonna tell people."
So there's some weird with her dying. It actually, the way that I wrote the character, her dying cemented his refusal to
now
share.
I'm really not going to tell people things.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So,
where I tell dies!
Yeah, that was literally it, right?
Yeah. So, I think that's really the main regret, is I wish I had not made him so closed.
I think you I think you really found that avenue, but in the last episode, I think if you had told us, prior, sorry, it's just, I come from a very dangerous place, and I can't tell you guys this much. And then maybe work on other things. Obviously, one joke, I think we talked about it several times on camera, was your obsession with mayonnaise. Quirks like that. I think there was, stuff to your character there that we could have explored, but, obviously we didn't get time. We were always kind of working on something with Karin or the mountains.
I feel like a lot of those moments with Duke where he was more open with somebody were one-on-one, where he would have a conversation with one person. And we all must be really good friends because we never gossiped with each other about Duke telling us anything. Celeste knew that Duke had children, and I think Sapphire learned that too when she had a conversation with him. Yeah, but I don't think that she ever said that to anyone else either, and neither did Celeste. That's just... And I even think you even mentioned to Sapphire once, I can't tell you because it'll get you killed. And she was like...
I think that did happen.
Yeah, and point. She was like, I'm in the same situation, man, just tell me. I'm already on somebody's hit list.
Yeah.
It was a no-go for him.
What about you, Eric?
I personally don't have any regrets. I should say I don't think Finnick has any regrets. I guess if I myself personally had a regret, it would be I wish Finnick was a little more in the fray, like out there more. Like he's a very like secondary character, and that's just the way I play things. Like he
a little bit wallflowerish.
Yeah, and that's just who I am as a person, and that's just how I am. And like you guys are a lot more advanced and like know what needs to be done, and like I'm still just like, oh, what are we doing? Okay, yeah, let's just do that. So like that's something I wish like me as a player would be better at. I feel like I'm better with Dawn. And I think that's almost because with
Dawn's technically your fourth character?
Sure.
In tabletop?
Sure, yeah, that sounds right. But it's a different different conversation. But different game mechanic. And you don't have to like save slots and stuff like that. Whereas like I'm always like, oh, I could do this, but like, what if in the later on? So that really stops me from doing certain things. So it's just like, and I mean, clearly part of the game, right? So I wish I, as a player, would be more involved. If that makes sense.
I think
I really like watching. I like just being here and be like, oh yeah, then it's my turn to roll. Yeah, this is what I do. Sure.
I think that's going to come with practice, though. Again, like just seeing you from the beginning of having Oz as your very first tabletop character, all the way up to I think Dawn's technically. I mean, there was the one-shot character on the train, which was another good one too.
Yeah,
and a one-shot character in the episode that we didn't record.
Especially that satyr. I think that was probably
that's my favorite. He's legit my favorite.
It's just
I really
one of those
like
things.
Your satyr.
Yeah,
I did like your satyr.
It's one of those things that you're going to learn over time, and you just got to.
Yeah, I think as my one regret was I regret Oz. Like I like Oz. I like who Oz became. Like this whole, but I shouldn't have done like a Dragonborn Paladin because I was just like, okay, this seems like you were helping me. It's like zero session, and I was just like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing. So in my mind, I need someone that's tanky, but I want to be a magic user, but I don't want to be like a wizard that's going to die. Like that was my thought. Was like, I don't want to die.
Sure.
And so I was like, oh, Dragon, like, he seems strong, and like Paladin, he's like can be in the fray, but like has a little magic. So he's kind of a good like. I feel like it was like one of those character customization. It was like, oh, we do that. Oh, okay. So he was a good character. I really enjoyed Oz, but like, that's not like the character I want to play. So like, but I don't regret him, but like, I was like, oh, like in hindsight, being 2020, I like different types of characters than what I created for him.
I really think that you did, like the way that you played Ember from how you played Oz was a big difference.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you felt more at home as Ember than you did as Oz. That's more like your character.
Yeah. Well, it was just interesting
with the magic and all that.
I love a magic user.
Yeah.
But it was also interesting to like go in, and we've talked about this before with like what you think your character is, and then all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 sessions in, you're like, oh, it's a different character. Like the way they interact with other people. And yeah, Ember was like, he was really thought out and was a different character. Whereas Oz like evolved every week and was probably really different. I'm glad we didn't record those because Oz was never the same person because I didn't understand that concept of like that's what it was. Because I really just put like myself into that character. But that's just a learning thing, right?
It's just IRL experience.
Yeah. But also I will always play that way because that's just how my mind works.
Sure.
And I am very comfortable with that. Sure. So it's a regret, but not a regret. I enjoyed everything we've done. So like there's no regrets with that. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Do you like supporting artists? Do you like nerdy things like Dungeons & Dragons? Then Co-op Creations SD is the store for you. You can find adorable dragons, menacing mind flayers, and jealous jelly cubes to accompany you on your adventures. Need a way to safely transport your math rocks? Then their homemade dice bags will keep your click-clacks warm. Stop on by their Etsy page soon, as stock is limited.
Okie dokie. This is. I'm going to skip the everyone one so we don't have too much of that. Chris, this is to Christian. What made you decide to send Duke away? We kind of talked about once, but he didn't get his armies involved at that time, which he did really. But what changed his mind about the? I mean, we kind of talked about this, but did you want to talk about it more?
Yeah. So I know there was a point where he wasn't wanting to try and just steamroll the mountain right away. This all kind of comes down to me. Also, on top of creating this closed character, I ended up creating someone who's like this, like extremely freaking good, like military strategist. So here I am, like, well, shit. I gotta. I actually at some point might have to share these. Like, I have maps of like battle plans actually drawn out, and that's kind of the thing is he didn't want to rush into it. It was more of wanting to make sure that every variable was accounted for before a decision was made. Also, there is, some past that was written where you don't necessarily need to just bring everyone in order to take down an organization. We don't know what we're up against yet.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to add in there, when you guys did come back to the mountain, and you had the very last episode, the speech that Chats gave to everybody, there were some Dragonborns interlaced in the crowd. Those were part of his army. I added that in. I was like, Duke came back. He's going to have fucking allies. He's going to have people that are there to help him. So I wanted to specifically say there are Dragonborns there with him. I maybe didn't specifically say they're with Duke, but I kind of tried to be like, oh, they're the same.
I got it.
I thought that's what I got.
I got
I'm pretty fucking dense.
So I wanted to be obvious, he's a Dragonborn. There's a bunch of Dragonborns here with him. So, yes.
I couldn't remember where my character lived. I got that, though.
We're sort of remember. Okay.
That bitch.
So, this one's for me. How did I decide to make Aqua the big bad? Can I reveal what did give her life and who was aiding her? So, like I said, I obviously drew from Travis's backstory that his wife was dead, but his daughter wasn't. And so I was like, okay, is she going to be a good or a bad person? Or is she just going to be dead? Like, she could have just been, because it had been hundreds of years. And I was like, okay, if she's alive, how is she alive? And I was like, well, I could just make her a lich. That's a thing. But I wanted to give it like a twist. So I will read you what Atropos is. It is an elder one. It's called Atropos, the World Born Dead. Basically, this thing eats worlds, but Aqua didn't know that. She basically prayed to something, and something heard her prayers, and gave her powers. And so kind of warlocky, but gave her, the abilities of a lich without actually being a lich. So she doesn't have like a phylactery necessarily. She has a patron, and she has to just sacrifice a bunch of people to this entity. So that's where like everything in the cave came from. Like, she was gathering souls to sacrifice to.
So that was her too. That cave thing that we found.
That was all.
Oh, so he was the elder one.
They were like
they were
trying to summon an elder one or whatever it was.
They were trying to summon an elder one, and they were sacrificing those people in the cages from the towns.
Your friends.
We're friends. Yeah.
Your friends did that.
Yes.
So that was all her too.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I was wondering if that was her.
Did you know that at the time?
No.
Okay.
Of course. Like, this is all just like building on itself. Like, I was like, okay, how did she get her powers? Okay, maybe there was this other entity outside the world, and I found those. They're called star spawn, I think is what they are.
Star spawn.
Yes. And so I was like, these are cool. There's a bunch of them, and I can throw them in as different type of combat. And because I wanted, and we had been fighting zombies and werewolves. Like, I was like, let's give us something different. So that's why I wanted to add that in. But yeah, so I didn't initially have Aqua to be the big bad. I was initially going to have either Kudath or Dominic, but they didn't seem like big antagonist. Like, didn't seem nearly as big as, like this thing that could potentially take over the entire world versus like this little mountain. So yeah, that's
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know, after getting my ass handed to me by Kudat twice on camera,
yeah.
I feel like he was Rowan's big bad.
He was your personal, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I feel like Kudath was like one of the hardest fights we had.
I think the Kudat fight was harder than the Dominic fight, mostly because Dominic just forgot he was angry.
Yeah. Well, also we got a good, I don't think he was expecting
a really good surprise round.
That was one of the best.
I think almost everybody crit at least once on him. Like, you crit a couple times, you crit. Like, we annihilated him very quickly. I think that could have been really bad if we didn't surprise round him.
Yeah. That was a great fight. It was fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there something in your backstory, this is for everybody, about your character that never got revealed that you want to share? Like, anything that didn't come out?
There's a question. So when we were talking about it, we were making my backstory to get pointed in the right direction of chats. There was a female tabaxi that was completely shrouded.
Yep.
Who was that?
That was... Okay, so I was supposed to be Akril. It's supposed to be Seuss.
Okay.
Before Seuss became Akril. So this kind of ties into Boren a little bit. So she was supposed to be kind of like I want you to help people more than I want to take over the world. And so it kind of changed. So she was supposed to be like, she either learned magical powers or she had them. And she was like aiding you to find her father for her type of thing. But I mean, if that ever came up, I was going to be like, oh, she was going to use it to lure him out of hiding.
That's what I was thinking, too. I'm like, oh, man, she used sweet, innocent Rowan to lure chats back here.
Yes. Like, that was dumb. That was the updated version. The original was pure, and, like, I just want to see my dad, but it turned into, I want to lure him out so I can kill him
but it could have been a little bit of both. Like, she didn't know whether, because if chats, I think, would have been like, yeah, I'll help you. I think she would have been like, cool, let's do this. And we're back together again.
She may have backstabbed him so that she would 100% have the throne. Yeah. I hadn't really gotten that far. Because you technically you had the monarchy. So, if you had died, then she would have inherited it. But as long as you were alive, you were a threat to her in some fashion. But that never came up, so. Yeah. Anyone else have backstory stuff?
That we want to share now?
I mean...
I'll tell you this. There are definitely things in the backstory for both, technically 3 characters.
Yeah, I want to know about the man in the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I almost made that a question, and then I did, like, literally... Who's the portal guy?
Yeah, I feel like he was, like, he's been around for years.
Yeah.
It's a simple answer. Not yet.
Okay.
I'm not done telling those stories. I'll just leave it.
Oh,
that is
unsatisfying.
Yes. Those are the words I weren't going to use, but that is the right word.
Yeah. Which is fine if it comes in the future.
I will tell you that when the stories are told, they will not be so closed.
Okay.
That's cool.
That's good.
Okay.
Does anyone else have backstory stuff? I mean, other than some of it was told in epilogue, so
I like that people know that Phoenix not from this continent.
Oh yeah,
he's from a different I think it's from Wildmount or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I knew that actually.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't remember what I've told. Like my backstory is like.
I think you said you're not from here, but you never did ask where.
Yeah, like his family are refugees. They lived in a forest and the city, the people of the city state nearby came and invaded the forest. It was very Ferngully and burned down their forest, and they escaped and were living alone, and they lived by themselves. That's why he doesn't really trust a lot of people, because he grew up with just his family and then ventured into the town and met you guys.
Ferngully.
Yeah, it was very Ferngully.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel like we talked about it though. I don't remember.
So this is a question for Josh. So you made the custom subclass for Rowan. What inspired it, and were there any cool things that you got as a subclass you never got to actually use?
Yes. Just because we didn't get there in level.
Mhm.
But the subclass that I created was focused on I feel like more of the bond breaking that the deity that he worshipped, Ilmater, he kind of wanted to be able to free people of their hate, as he had basically with anybody on the mountain. When he was in prison, he really had that that come to God moment like Finnick had, where he finally realized that he was a heavy drinker, and had a lot of hate for everybody and anything on the mountain, anything come from it. But while he was imprisoned, he realized that he had a moment where he realized that being imprisoned may not only be a physical manifestation of, what choices that he had made, but also like a personal choice, being imprisoned in all of this hate and everything, because he was imprisoned with somebody from the mountain. He was imprisoned with the bear, Clifton.
Yeah.
So, I mean, once Clifton had told him his story, it made Rowan think, oh man, these are normal people. They deal with terrible shit too, they're people, and, maybe they aren't all monsters. So, and that was kind of the moment he had too, where he definitely preyed on it, and Ilmater visited him in the cell and was like, hey, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna have to break, all bonds of hate, and not just pretend to get better. But yeah, later on, some of the monk abilities that he would have been able to do is to help people sever those emotions if they wanted to, by using his key, and he tried with Chats one time, but Chats wasn't ready to let go of that hate just yet. But later on, he would have been able to force those feelings out in manifestations and defeat them. So
consent is key.
Yeah, that seems very
to force force.
Things.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, force.
Okay.
Just force.
Yeah.
He would have been able to force like the pure hatred out in
Right.
form, and been able to attack it basically on like an astral plane.
Oh, so you can make like nega people and fight their shadows.
Yeah, basically. But he would also have been able to use his ability to empower good emotions as well. So he would have taken somebody with just a sliver of hope and amplified that to make them, help them out too. So that was part of the whole consensual thing, being able to do. But yeah, the negative emotions he wanted to help people break, but he knew that, or Ilmater also, I guess, knew by giving him the powers that, some people just aren't going to let go of that.
Right.
So he just punches the joy into people.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to love me. That does make me think of a regret that I have, actually. Going back. So at one point, like I said before, I always want change, something different. And Josh had worked on a subclass for Finnick
for Blood.
That was like really cool. And I was like, cool. Surprise me with it. And it just like we never got there.
Yeah.
And then other changes. So I regret not getting to use that class that you created, because I was excited to implement it, but I feel like the story went somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that happens.
Yeah. So I felt like that's a personal regret.
No way for us to publish those subclasses for people to
use,
play with.
It's on D&D Beyond. I actually have already published. I don't remember give me a couple seconds. I'll look up the name.
We'll link them in the video.
Yeah, sure. It was really cool. I was like, oh, you can do that. Like,
Yeah.
everything.
Promise.
Hey, producer, write that down. We'll link it in the video.
I don't have my production notes up.
Oh, did we just say drop a link and did we say like and subscribe? Yeah, that's
but if you want to check out the subclasses that Josh made, then we'll figure out a way to share.
The monk, Rowan's monk is Way of the Bondbreaker. So that one is definitely easy to remember. The Blood Hunter subclass. Give me a second. I might. Nope. Maybe. I gotta sign back in on my phone. Give me a couple seconds. I will.
Sorry, I threw that on.
So this one's for Eric. Phoenix suggested to Sapphire at one point that they should run away. What made Phoenix stay?
I don't remember that happening. I think he suggested it once because you had suggested it.
I think we had a conversation about it.
Yeah.
You know what I think that it was is that Sapphire was talking to Finnick about like everything that she had been through and like she doesn't know these people.
Yeah.
And then he was like, we could just leave.
Yeah.
I don't have ties to them either. I did my
think
job.
that was the thought of it too, is like, I don't have to be here. Like, and, I mean, sure he stayed because of Sapphire and that like weird thing that was going on and like the relationships he began to form with like the younger people in the group. Like, I think he was forming bonds with these two. He's like, okay, well, these are the first people I've liked in years.
I think ultimately the reason why we stayed was because we had that conversation while we were in the city, and they didn't come back, and I think we were like, oh no.
Yeah, I think didn't we say like 3 days if they don't come back for like,
and then we went and then we went and looked for them anyway.
Yeah,
the next because they didn't come back, and I think that one of us was like, we can't leave.
Like I remember I remember you saying that one time, and I was shocked because I was surprised that Sapphire would want to leave because like Finnick, like in theory, he's lone wolf in theory, right? But yeah, like that type of thing is what I like in the storytelling. Is like I did not expect that coming. So like if we had left, it would have been really interesting.
That's one thing about Sapphire too that didn't come out from like her backstory, or not even her backstory, just her personality, is that she has a lot of commitment fear when it comes to staying with a party or staying with people for very long, because that has never turned out well for her. So I think that when things started to get kind of like intense in that moment when we were all just in this town getting ready to like be in a lot of danger, she was like, I don't want to be here. This is not going to end up well. Somebody's going to die. Yeah. I'm not going to be able, like, I don't like this commitment kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that's why she was suggesting it. She was like, I like you. Yeah. And maybe we can hang for a little while, but this is too much. There's too many people. There's too much, like, things that could go wrong kind of thing.
Yeah, I think if given it, I think he probably would have left. Mm-hmm. And I'm super comfortable with, like, my characters suddenly leaving or dying. Like, the first time it happened with Oz, I was, like, in shock. And after you get over that, you're like, oh, I can just make a new one. Right. This would be fun. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I've always said to Matt, like, don't hold back or don't, like, I have no fear of that. Like, I like those moments. I like that feeling. Mm-hmm.
I think like, character deaths are good moments. Yeah. Good moments for the story, good moments for party bonding.
Yeah, it was it's interesting. And, like, even last week I was saying before we started filming, like, we got done and it was late and I got back to my house and I, like, was still processing things. And I stayed up and manically cleaned my kitchen. Like, I scrubbed my microwave until at least 4:30 a few times, just processing it. And I, like, it was weird because I was like, I really should go to bed, but I really enjoy this. And I was just thinking, and that's really some of my favorite parts of this game is, like, going back and thinking what happened individually, and then forgetting it when we show up on Friday and be like, what? Who's Rosemary? Like, but that's just that's my, like, adult mind. Sure. But yeah, I enjoy that.
Okay, this one's for Travis and I. How was Snoring Mountain's lore created, and how did we work? Like, did we work together to come up with the lore, the history of the mountain?
I mean, in a way, I kind of started off writing, like, the exaggerated backstory that every DM fears, and then you kind of took what I had made and then plugged in what you needed to make this story work on it, and kind of speed things up to the future where, you know, things had really changed and all that. Snoring Mountain is in Bolo's guide, actually. It's because out out of all the possible lore you could have, Tabaxi have like a whole 2 or 3 pages to their name in all of D&D canon. And so one of the things you can choose that is written in there is what clan does your character come from? You know, after we played a few times, I kind of filled in some of the backstory, and I looked at what I had available as far as like, you know, lore, and I was like, Snoring Mountain sounds cool. What is Snoring Mountain? Like, why is this clan called this? And so I decided, well, a volcano is kind of a snoring mountain, and so it kind of evolved from there, and you know,
there's a volcano.
I didn't know there's a volcano.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just really love all the lore that's in Snoring Mountain and the towns, and like you even had like talked about like the like snowdrop fields and the terraces. Like you had like this whole world built.
Oh.
It was great.
I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking of the snowdrop fields of Snoring
right.
Mountain.
And anytime any of us had a question about what does this look like, what's this layout, what's this thing that could exist on your mountain, you had it. And a lot of it might have just been bullshit, but...
I wish it were just bullshit. No, I put way too much thought into Snoring Mountain.
But it really made it come alive in my mind. Like, I could imagine, like, what it looked like, the things that we were doing on that mountain.
Yeah.
I wish I could draw, because I could think about how beautiful those snowdrop fields are.
Yeah, it was... Like, I think part of my inspiration, and maybe just subconsciously, was kind of like... the Sound of Music, you know, where she's like twirling and dancing in these fields growing on the side of a mountain, and also like the mountains and the terraced fields in China. What did you say?
It's probably offensive, but I can say it.
You know, and so like, yeah, I just tried to imagine the most beautiful mountains there are in our world and kind of supplanted it with this, you know, fantasy and, you know, what these cat people just building a medieval city on the slopes of it. 3 of them.
The way that Chats talked about how beautiful his mountain was, I gotta tell you that I was, like, me and Sapphire, we got on the mountain and we saw all the fields, like, had basically been killed and it wasn't pretty anymore. I was like, what did they do to this baby?
Yeah, I felt a little bad, like, obviously taking that and aging it. But they wouldn't keep all of the pretty things. Like, I was think about it logistically, like, and how they would use the space. Like,
I mean, it made sense, but I was like, my inner druid heart was like,
right.
They killed the mountain! Where are all the fields?
Yeah.
Where are the flowers?
Right.
I'm sure that Chats felt the same way, though. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Travis felt the same way. I was like, oh my god. Why did you kill my garden?
So there's a couple for me. The first one was with what was on the other side of the portal with the cultists in the cave. So that was question mark. I had not actually planned for you guys to go through that portal. So it was potentially, you know, like another world or like just a big like pit of a mouth of something. I hadn't really planned it out. I was really hoping you just didn't go through it.
I assumed it would be kind of like the mirror that nobody or that Ember walked through. That maybe it would take us to one of the hells.
Yep. It totally could have. I just hadn't planned it, and I never had to, so I did it. But
that's how being a DM works.
Yeah.
Right. The next one was about Borin, the guy in the bubble, and why Akril spared him. Again, that kind of went back to, that was before Akril was Akril. And she just helped this person who helped her. And so it was more of like they did something nice, so I'll do something nice for them type of thing. And I could have rewritten in my head about, like she was running away from being captured, and this was, again, one person who actually helped her, and maybe he wasn't transformed at that point, like he was just human, and so she was willing to help him keep himself safe as well as herself. But again, that stuff never came up because you guys pissed off Boren, and then you left him alone. So it never came back to why did that thing happen. So, okay, Lucian, Christian, so Lucian served a big plot hook, obviously in the last part of the adventure. Did you have more planned for him? I'm guessing you obviously do. But you do have more planned, like, that you wish you would have been able to do in the time that he was on Stone Mountain.
So, I mean, there's a lot that I built on him. Also, because he's a time traveler, you know, I was never really concerned that I wouldn't get to experience some more of it. I was actually sitting on that character for almost a year.
Mm.
I had been wanting to maybe introduce him for that purpose, and then we kind of started reaching this point where it's like, things gotta happen, and I'm concerned that they might not. So, yeah. There isn't anything that I feel that has missed, because I still feel like that story can be told still.
Okay, so this one for everyone. I don't know where is that. Anyway, is there a mission that you guys didn't complete that you wish you would have? So, like, is there a side?
Where the hell was that cook?
Yes, I will tell that story. So, the idea was it was supposed to lead you underground, actually. So you're supposed to go to his house. His house is going to be in disarray. Behind his fireplace where he cooked, there was going to be like a trap door that goes underground into the sewer system, and there was going to be feral tabaxi that are like living down there out of control. And possibly tie in more of the star spawn, maybe not directly connected, but like you encounter one and then the other, and kind of get you guys thinking about, the star spawn may still be a thing, because so in the final Snoring Mountain battle that you guys missed, they were going to come out from the sewers and they were going to attack the city from underground. That was the idea, but it never actually needed to happen. So, because you guys didn't follow that thread, you guys never found it. But yeah, that was the idea.
Remember, everyone, spay and neuter your cats.
Yeah.
Just don't flush them. Don't put them in the sewer.
Well, they escaped into the sewer. They didn't get flushed.
Oh, they're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Tabaxi.
Yes. Any other missions or anything that you guys didn't get to do that you?
I don't feel like there's anything that I regret not doing.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think, Oh, okay. Outside of obviously we found a good spot to end this campaign, and I think there's things we could have done afterwards if we had decided to continue with this, like hunting for Ember, or or snapping at your cat.
Hey,
and some of those things could end up being one shots, really good one shots.
Yeah,
for Ember, which we kind of talked about what happened, or even what's going on in Sapphire's
war.
Thing.
Pursuing the Duke and the Bree song conflicts.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean that I don't really consider that things that were missed.
And some of those things are pretty straightforward. Duke needs to go and fight war. You don't really need to play that out necessarily when he's gathered the armies that he needs. Hopefully,
to me, those are stories though that can still be told. They weren't stories that were missed.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are Eric's questions. Do you have any that you want to interject before we go on?
Just one thing. The subclass is called Order of the Wormslayer that I had made for Eric, and so that is published on D&D Beyond. You can find it in Homebrew selection. Where's my uncle?
So he was supposed to be in there, like, trapped. I alluded to that he may have gotten sacrificed. But again, that wasn't something that, like, really got talked about. It wasn't like a thread you guys really followed, because you guys found his ring down in the caves. But you didn't, like, find his body or anything.
And also he sent me a parcel later on? That kind of confused me.
Oh, that was supposed to be, like, he had sent away for it and it was coming back.
Oh, okay.
As, like, it takes several weeks, to make this type of thing.
Gotcha.
And so I also wanted...
It was a Kickstarter.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And it just
completely forgot about
came
it.
in now. He had backed it, and then they have to go to
Oh.
production.
I also wanted to throw in Gilmore, because Gilmore.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, one mystery we never solved is who that doppelganger of Rosemary was.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I had thoughts about that. So it was supposed to be Roxasha. That was, so if you think way back, this was before we started streaming, at the first corrupted tree you guys fought, that was supposed to be a Roxasha as well. That's when someone threw a spell at it, just like ricocheted off essentially. And Eric's like, I want that necklace.
Oh, I remember that guy.
Yeah.
I wrote down their name.
Yeah. That was supposed to be Roxasha, which,
him.
for any of you who don't know, Roxashas don't get affected by certain level spells. So I just narratively told it that way.
Yeah.
They didn't have like a magical necklace that deflected spells. Sorry. That was the thing I
Wanted that necklace.
I know. Anyway, but yeah, it was supposed to be Roxasha. I was thinking about it being like Ockrell's like right-hand man. But when I was making the fight, the very, very last fight with Ockrell, if I had put a Lich and a Roxasha in there with the dragon, illusionary dragon, I thought it might be a little bit too much.
Yeah, that illusionary dragon really kicked their asses.
Yeah.
It did. Yep.
And that was that was the worst.
Yeah.
Does Rowan keep the stone golem forever?
No, it's Chats.
Oh, it's Chances.
Oh, yeah.
Do you, has he become one of your
guardian?
guards outside
Just
of
his
your,
Yeah, he's my bodyguard.
your bodyguard?
Yeah.
He just carries shots around. Shots just like.
But sometimes Rowan comes up and sees it and just like sits on its head.
Yeah, we have sparring matches.
Yeah.
Sure.
Did you have anything else? Okay. What was on Kudas' girlfriend's body?
Yeah.
So I had a couple ideas. If you actually did go back there, I thought about doing some more soul coins and seeing if I could fuck with you guys that way. Because that was fun. And also, I was thinking about doing having her have like a plane shift spell scroll, because she would be from the Hells, and I don't think they can innately just go to the Hells, so I figured that she would have some way of getting back, which could have led into Ember storyline stuff. Again, like side quests essentially. Right. I also thought about giving her like a rope of entanglement, which could be useful in combat and outside combat too.
Pure BDSM.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, she was a succubus, so that's what I was going with. So a couple things here and there I thought about, but you guys never went back, so I didn't.
Drifting in the ethereal plane.
Well, she actually would have gone back to the Hells, because her bot, because that's what succubus do when they die. They go back to the Hells.
Oh,
they can't actually die unless they're in the Hells.
I've thought about that. I was like, that body. Like,
Maybe
I don't remember anything, but I remember thinking,
Maybe-
we need to go back to that.
Maybe we
I don't know
found
why I'm
her.
just stuck in my
When we
head.
went to search for Ember, maybe we found her and
Yeah.
got to actually kill her.
there you go. Sure.
because you
Yeah.
have to kill them.
Yeah.
Is there
And stole her bits.
So is there any place we went that you didn't go that surprised me? So is there any place we went or didn't go that surprised me? So I was, there was a couple places in I'm trying to blank on the town. Under Felix? Under Felix.
Which one?
Not Shaggy Pot, Under Felix. Yeah, it's Under Felix.
Yeah.
There were a couple places I made in Under Felix, like the spas, and there was a burlesque show that you guys never went
That would
to.
have been great.
Yeah.
But there was a whole town on the mountain we never even went to.
Yeah,
That's true.
Thorfax.
Yeah, Thorfax. I didn't really plan that one out a lot, but there were places in Under
We went to the
Felix.
spa.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I remember Eric was very interested and then completely forgot about it.
Yeah, that sounds like me.
Yeah. And you guys, when you guys had left the academy, like the guard was talking to you about the burlesque show in the back of this fancy restaurant, but you guys never went back. So
Oh, yeah.
Getting attacked by that guard kind of took precedence.
Yeah.
yeah. But I was surprised a couple places you didn't go. Some places I was surprised you did go. I can't really think of. I mean, all of them were pretty much like you're probably gonna go there. I mainly only planned stuff that I knew you guys would go to. Like the city building, like world building stuff was more of just like this might be fun for you guys to just see if you wanted to try it out. I mean, there were a couple, like the people's tower that you guys didn't go to.
Yeah.
There was supposed to be an NPC there that had a very high pitched voice, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I can do this. Like, it was more of a challenge for myself, and I knew Eric would hate it.
I'm really glad we didn't go there.
Yeah. It was supposed to be a dwarf that had a high pitched voice, so it was supposed to be like an oxymoron type of thing. Like, anyway, but
so I hate to cut us here. We have time for one or two shorter questions.
Oh, there's 2 questions left. So, who is my favorite? Is it? I'm guessing this is who my favorite character. Maybe it's for everybody.
No, this is for you.
Just for me. Okay. Yeah. Who is my favorite character to play, or my favorite character that we create on the fly? Agnes was my favorite character that we created on the fly. Like, you were like, you're just talking to some random chick, and she ended up becoming
Agnes is probably one of my favorite
I enjoyed Agnes too.
You enjoyed Agnes. Yeah.
I liked that she had a little bit more depth than just like she was a healer and she worked for the clerk. Like,
yeah, I mean, we got to meet her daughter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
yep.
We got to learn a lot about this character that we made up on the fly.
Right, that you accidentally were like, please tell me more about this town. Essentially,
yeah.
I loved when she came by, and because I took that cursed ring from the tiger, the were-tiger, and she cured me, but she had trepidation about doing so, and that's what got us kicked out of Boren's farm.
Yep,
is bringing someone from the town to his farm.
Yep, yep. My favorite character to play. I have a couple. I mean, I really liked Rosemary. I thought she was interesting just because it's completely different from what I normally play. Like, she was just like a hothead, but also she was there to heal. Like, she was a mobile healing unit, essentially,
which we appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah. You guys needed it. But I mean, she was fun to just throw in sometimes, and she also stayed to the back a lot. Like, she was pretty quiet. I liked playing Kudas just because he was an asshole, and I liked being an asshole occasionally. Like, just like treating people like shit in game, like not caring about if I kill a spouse or something. I'd make literally 2 spouses kill each other.
Beat the crap out of Rowan a few times.
Yeah, like that was kind of fun. Yeah. Designing like big bosses like that are going to be difficult, I think is fun. So more of like the personality is the first thing, and then obviously creating the actual encounter is another. But kind of helping alluding to some of that is kind of fun. Anyway, what great loot, treasure, dungeon did we miss out on finding? So if you remember back in the caves, there was like a loot box essentially, where I had you like roll to see what you got. There was a couple things in there that I might be able to find quick, but there was like a bunch of different like cool stuff that I had from a Kickstarter that I bought. I can't think of the name of it right now.
Griffin Saddleblade.
Yeah, that thing where it was like a set type of thing, similar to like your circlet and whatnot. Where if you had gotten one of the pieces and then you kept finding the other pieces, it would have made it.
I got one of the swords that if you got 2 more things, you could fly. Or
Yep.
So
like,
that would have been cool.
Yeah, like stuff like that. Like there were stuff you could have found in those loot boxes essentially, but that's most of the loot that you probably missed.
I really like the idea of armor sets, like pieces of sets,
I really like
magical
that.
sets that like boost you. I love that idea.
I'm really sad because when we found that, you're like, you can kind of just tell me what you want, and I'll like go like what items you want, and I will like create an item or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Because I like that mystery. I need that and we did that, and then like a week later, I redesigned the whole character. So I was like, I cannot use any of these items.
I mean, that
was like
works,
really
right?
sad. Like,
right?
Yeah, but
All right. Well, I hate to be the big mean producer, but we got a couple minutes left here. So, do we have any
Burning
closing
questions, comments?
Yay, team!
Yay, team!
Just
I have one thing it's not related to this campaign, but are we excited for campaign 2?
Mm-hmm.
What's thoughts on campaign 2?
No.
Are we giving any spoilers?
We're all good. We have a lot of things in the works.
Yeah.
We're not announcing anything today.
I just don't think this will be the final campaign.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There, you will see more.
That is fucked up.
Really good.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really smart.
You'll see in like a couple months how smart that was.
You'll get it. You'll get it one day.
Yeah.
Can we at least give them a tease? Any kind of tease on whatever we got
My
coming up
bad,
on the
Tanner.
works?
Oh.
No.
That's a
there is definitely going to be another campaign and also another monster of the week.
Mm-hmm.
That's as much as we can promise.
Yeah. I think that's good.
Yes.
Cool.
One last
And there-
parting remark.
There will be probably some one-shots between the campaigns
Yeah.
that we're talking
Obviously,
about.
we need a little bit of time to.
Yeah. So
make
look
sure
forward for some one-shots.
Yeah.
If you have any suggestions on like some fun things or like new TTRPG like modules we can try, or not modules, but like different systems, put them down below. Like
I have an
Yes.
idea
Yeah.
for one.
I'm like totally up for playing some new things that, like besides D&D.
Whoa. I don't want to learn new things. I'm not here for new experiences.
So one last thing that I will say is just thank you guys for the group. As much as we enjoyed recording this, and we hope you enjoyed it. Honestly, this is super for us, and we're glad that you enjoyed it. If you do, let us know. But I want to thank each one of you guys individually for bringing this whole campaign together, making it super adhesive, and allowing me to experience it, because we've had some really awesome moments and I've enjoyed everything. Thanks, Matt, for running the campaign. Thanks, Christian, for basically producing the whole damn thing. Thanks, Travis, for creating Snoring Mountain and all the crazy lore that goes with it. Thanks, Alicia, for creating some very interesting moments and characters. And
You married one of them.
Yeah. Pretty sure I married all your D&D characters.
You're usually my DM, so you're just...
Yeah. and of course, thank you for allowing me to experience the first character. That is always so much fun, having a new player at the table and experiencing that. And yeah, thank you guys. Amazing campaign.
Thank you for a really awesome Irish accent.
Yeah.
I need it one more time.
Ireland.
I need Ireland.
Yes.
All right.
Well, thank you for joining us on this campaign 1 wrap up. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.